Thank you. How's it going, everyone? Is everyone excited to be here today? Let's clap it up. Let's make some noise. Come on. You guys in here are the VIPs. So I'm going to chat with you guys for about the next 20 minutes or so. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my story and what led me to get here to speak to all of you. And I'm going to share with you guys first a little bit about myself before we jump into it. So for those of you that aren't familiar with who I am, my name is Carlos Gil. So great to be here with all of you. Thank you so much to Tai and the Knowledge Society for inviting me to come out and speak to all of you today. I've done a lot of cool things over the last 10 years of my career. I've established a career for myself in marketing, specifically in corporate brand marketing. I've had the opportunity to start up social media for global brands. I've worked at LinkedIn. I've managed multi-million-dollar ad budgets. And I've done all this over the last 10 years in addition to public speaking without a college degree. Heck, I've done it without even a high school diploma. So, thank you. You know, it's interesting, guys, and it's humbling. I get goosebumps even talking about this because typically when I'm on stages all over the world, I'm speaking to marketers, I'm speaking to CMOs, and I've never really had a chance to share my story with all of you, or with anyone really, because I've always felt embarrassed to share the fact that I come from an immigrant family. My parents are from Cuba. I didn't have a high school diploma. I didn't have a college degree as I was coming up. So a lot of what I'm going to share with you today is based on my story, which I call the Dropout. But it's really on how to growth hack the career and the life that you deserve. Because, well, I'll tell you this. One of the worst feelings in the world is to get a call from an employer that you've gone through multiple rounds of interviews with, and you're told that the only reason why you're not getting hired is because you didn't have a college degree. Can anyone in this room relate to that feeling? A lot of you. It is a really shitty feeling. I'm going to just say that. It's a horrible feeling to go through the ringer and you've got family to support, you've got bills to pay, and you get so far in the process and then you're told, we'd like to hire you, but you don't have that piece of paper. So I've got here on the screen these cool little logos of media publications I've written for, I've been featured in, and this is great and all, but what I really want to share with you guys is what have been the keys to my success specifically. And I want to open it up by asking all of you this question that you see in front of you. Think about a time in which you failed and how you bounced back from that. So I want to call on a couple of you here, just by a share of hands. Who can share an example? My man right here. Tell me about a time that you failed and you bounced back.
I failed a lot. For one thing, just fucking school.
Life. Fatherhood.
I just stopped giving a fuck about failing, man.
Okay. Excellent. Next, right here.
Biochemistry, failed it.
Okay.
Next semester, came back, passed it, and then a relationship with my ex-girlfriend, failed at that after 5 years, but I'm coming back.
Excellent. Congrats. One more.
Pursued entrepreneurship at a young age, ended up just getting into a lot of debt, depression, and decided just basically at that point, enough's enough, made some changes, got into corporate America, got myself out of debt, built up credit, and now I'm investing into business in which I'm moving back into full-on entrepreneurship.
How do you feel about that experience?
It made me who I am.
How do you feel about that experience, El Salvador? How do you feel about that experience? Grateful. How do you feel about that experience? The same. I'll share with you guys, there's 2 instances in my life that really changed me to mold me, be the person I've become. There's a lot of us that go through things in our lifetimes that mold us. It can be graduating from college. It can be a lot of things. Seeing your first child born, which I've done. I'm a parent. It can be getting married, which I've done. It can be getting divorced, which I've done as well. But these aren't things that necessarily have defined me. The 2 things that define me are, 1, at the age of 17, deciding to drop out of high school because I wanted to work. I grew up in the age of social media when it was known as AOL. I'm 34 years old. But I grew up when AOL, which is the OG of social media, for those of you that remember it, I grew up in that era where I didn't have access to the resources that we have today, like Tai and other resources that we see online. But I wanted to work. I wanted to make money. So what did I do? While I was in high school, I worked at Blockbuster Video 20 hours a week. And then I worked selling shoes another 20 hours a week. So I had a 40-hour job between 2 employers. And I started realizing I'm learning more by selling shoes, developing my soft social skills. I'm learning more about negotiation, just selling shoes to people than I am sitting in class all day, going to art class and learning about things that probably aren't going to apply to me when I grow up in life. So I made this decision at 17. Don't get me wrong. I grew up, even though my parents are immigrants from Cuba, I grew up in a very affluent area of South Florida, close to Miami, in a city called Weston. For those of you that are familiar with the makeup of South Florida, you live in Weston? My man, 954. So I grew up in a very affluent area, and I was afforded good things, but I just didn't want to go to school. I wanted to work. I wanted to have what my parents have. When I saw a Porsche in the driveway, I wanted to have that Porsche. When I saw the 6-bedroom house, I wanted those things as well. And my dad, every time he'd give me that new pair of Jordans, would always say, Carlos, this is the byproduct of my work and my labor. Enjoy it. I love you. So I aspired to do that, not go to school, not incur all this debt. That's one. The second time in my life that really changed me was 25 years old. So I started my career selling shoes. I then got a job at 19 years old at Citibank. I was one of the youngest branch managers ever in the history of Citigroup. At the age of 21 years old, I was able to get into their management trainee program. The CEO of the company had to sign off on me getting into the program because I wrote a handwritten letter and mailed it to the corporate office. Back then we didn't have email, so it was fax machines. And I literally faxed that letter to every single person in the chain of command, from the CEO all the way on down to my boss. I was able to get into their management trainee program, so I was one of the youngest branch managers. So I was on this high. Thank you. I was on this high. Corporate America. Corporate America is where I wanted to be. I wanted to scale the ranks of corporate America. And by the age of 30, retire, right? That's the dream that 19 years old, and then 20, 21 I had. And then what happened? I get married. I have kids. The recession comes around. So you guys know what happened during the recession in the banking industry, right? What do you think happened at that point in my job and my career? It was gone. It was slashed along with budget cuts. And I was out of a job, 25 years old. My wife at the time was 8 months pregnant. I had a son that was just a little over 2 years old. I had no college degree to fall back on. I had no backup plan whatsoever, but one thing and one thing only. It was my mom and dad. And my mom told me the day I got laid off, which is November 5th, 2008, you need to join LinkedIn. Think about the date, November 5th, 2008. LinkedIn wasn't what it was today. People weren't using Facebook and Twitter to network. But you know what? I took my mom's advice, and within 3 days of losing that job, I became inspired to do something with my life. I decided to dust myself off. I started building this brand. I started networking. So I started up a tech startup called Jobs Direct USA, which helped over 1,000 people find jobs throughout the recession. I did this. I made no money the first 2 years I was in business. The last 2 years I was in business, I never had to go on another sales call again. Because years 1 and 2, I focused on networking. I focused on building brand. I forced myself to study while everyone else that I personally knew at that point in time was either collecting unemployment and living off of that, or waking up every morning and going to work and getting off at 5 o'clock and going home and enjoying their life. I was studying. I was forcing myself to study how to use Twitter, how to use LinkedIn, network, which ultimately got me a job at LinkedIn many years. So how do I feel about that experience today, almost 10 years later, looking at all of your faces? For me, it's a humbling experience, and it's one that I will never trade in for the world. And here's what I learned. You can growth hack anything. Anything. You can play as big or as small as you want to play. You can growth hack your life and your career to be who you want to be, to aspire to make as much money or as little money. There's no one stopping you. You know, I often hear from folks, I can't do this because I don't have the capital. All right, you can work. You can save up the capital. You know, just before I came in here, I was talking to a young man in the hall, and he comes up to me and says, you know, you really have really good experience with social media. I'm trying to use social media in my business because I'm making no money. So the first question I ask him is, well, what do you do? And he says he has an online apparel business selling Bitcoin apparel. And I'm like, whoa, you're in a really hot space right now, because let's think about it. Everyone nowadays is hearing about Bitcoin, whether you're an investor or not. Whether you're buying or not, everyone's hearing about Bitcoin. So immediately I pull out my cell phone, and I go on Instagram, and I look at how many posts have been tagged on Instagram with hashtag BTC. There was over 1.5 million posts on Instagram. So I said, young man, what you need to do is on your cell phone on notes, you need to type in a bunch of different posts with emojis, like the money bag emoji, the fire emoji, like the tree sprouting up emoji. And you can just go through and literally, while you're laying in bed, while you're sitting on the toilet, while you're sitting on the couch, just go through and just start posting over and over and over again, and point people to your profile with a link in bio. The guy was like head spun. That's growth hacking. Growth hacking for me is defying the odds of the system. There's a system in place for everything. You can defy the system. I've done it through my career, being able to show other individuals how to go ahead and have a very successful and lucrative career as a marketing executive and also building and growing startups without ever even having a formal education. I'll share with you guys this example. Back in 2013, when I turned 30, I went through this just like life-changing moment where I felt, I have to go to school. And I was able to get into this executive MBA program based on the merits of my work history. And I paid about $20,000 for 2 semesters, and I ultimately wound up dropping out of that program because I didn't learn anything applicable to what I was already doing in my life. But I had to go through this experience and invest some money just to learn. And I go back to this point, growth hack. If you don't have experience doing something that you require the experience to do, go out and get it, whether it's self-education, or it's volunteering. I'm a huge fan of volunteering. I often hear from people say, I want to get a job in social media, but I don't have a social media presence. Okay, start networking on Twitter. Get involved in Twitter chats. Join LinkedIn groups. Go on Facebook. Instead of chatting with your friends on Facebook, go join Facebook industry groups. Start networking. Start volunteering in your community. If you want to become a public speaker, speak to 5 people on ITT Technical College in your community. And you know what? You do this over and over, eventually you'll start getting big opportunities. A lot of my success I've attributed to what you see here, which is the 5 P's. This is actually a formula at 19 years old I developed. You know how DJ Khaled has his keys to success, right? Any DJ Khaled fans in the house? There we go. My keys are the 5 P's that you see here. I'm going to break this down for you guys. The first is passion. Passion controls everything. If I was not passionate about what I do, you wouldn't be feeling this passion, no pun intended, here on stage in front of you. If I wasn't passionate about what I do, I wouldn't be getting speaking opportunities all over the world. Someone like Tai wouldn't be affording me this opportunity to step here and speak to all of you. Passion is number one. If you're not passionate about what you're doing right now, whatever it is you do, if you're a janitor, if you're not passionate about sweeping floors, whatever it is that you do, if you're not passionate, don't do it. You don't have to do. Again, you can play as big or as small as you want to. You don't have to do what you're doing today if the passion isn't there. If you're in a business or if you're in a business partnership and you're not passionate about even your partner, get out. Second is persistence. Persistence, ladies and gentlemen, is being persistently annoying and in people's faces even if they say no. I love when people say no to me. You know why? Because for me, no means not right now. A lot of times I've been told no. I'm getting ready to speak in my 4th social media marketing world in a few weeks. Social media marketing world told me no the first 2 years of their existence. And I already had experience to speak at their conference and I was told no. I always take a no as not right now. Being persistently annoying goes to a couple things that we talk about a lot in marketing nowadays, which is personal brand. How many of you are working on growing your personal brands online on social media? You know what the key to personal branding is? It's being in people's news feeds so much that the more they see your face by repetition, now they're going to feel compelled to actually see what you're about and consume your content. That's what I call being persistently annoying. The third is perseverance. You're going to get knocked down. You know what college doesn't teach anyone, from my perspective? How to deal with bankruptcy, how to deal with foreclosure, how to deal with a repossession. These are all things that I've experienced throughout my lifetime. No college out there is teaching you what to do if your business goes belly up, how to dust yourself off. No college out there is teaching you what to do if you lose your job, how to pick yourself up. So I'm going to tell you guys this. Perseverance is going to be the difference between being great or being average. Because shit will happen. You will go through things if you haven't already. And I love it because I have a lot of 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds that come up to me and they say, hey, I run an agency, I do this, I do that. I let them know, dude, you haven't gone through what you need to go through. And when you go through it, meaning you get knocked down, how you get back up through that perseverance is really going to determine a lot of your success long term. The 4th is persuasion. And this is a really important personality trait. Because persuasion means, can you convince people to buy from you and believe in you? If you can't convince someone, if you cannot persuade someone to click on a link to visit your website, you're going to have a very hard time persuading them to buy from you. And the 5th is personality, which is perhaps one of the most important traits out there. And it ties to personal brand. which is really being likable. If people like you, they're going to feel compelled to do business with you. Quite frankly, excuse my language, if you're an asshole, it's not going to get you very far, whether it's in a corporate setting or whether it's in a professional setting of any kind. If you have clients, people do business with who they feel comfortable doing business with. Remember that. People don't care about logos. People don't care about products and services, how great you say you are, because guess what? Whatever each one of you do, I bet you have competition out there. I bet you someone else is already doing it. So what makes you stand out is your personality, and it's also your story, which I'm going to get to. We're here at the Mentorship Conference. Let me tell you how mentors have helped me. When I needed to get out of a company where I was at, which was Winn-Dixie, to move on to another company where I got a job as a director of digital marketing, my mentor helped open up the he mentored a CMO at the company where I ended up working. When I was interviewing at LinkedIn, and there was over 100 candidates that they were weeding through, I was able to turn to mentors to be able to write recommendations for me and make also introductions. A mentor and a motivator are two different things. I think you can look at someone like myself, for example, standing in front of you, and you're probably going to get fired up and jazzed up over this, but if you don't make an attempt to get to know me and network with me, I'm not going to be able to be your mentor. But I tell you a misconception about mentorship. A lot of people think that mentorship is a one-way street, meaning a mentor has to be older than you, wealthier than you, more successful than you. But the reality is a mentor, from my perspective, is someone that's taking time to guide you, to advise you. A mentor is someone that's already walked the path before you and is illuminating that path for you and showing you the way based on their experience. Mentorship, ladies and gentlemen, is a two-way street. And what I mean by it's a two-way street, you're not just going to a mentor because there's something that you want to get out of them. Because trust me, we see through that BS. It's a two-way street in terms of a value exchange. I'm going to share with you guys a very, very quick example. You see this gentleman right here with the camera, right there that I'm pointing at, Anthony? I met Anthony 2 years ago. I was keynoting a conference in Puerto Rico. I didn't have a YouTube channel back then. I wasn't doing a daily vlog in Hustle Diaries. My personal brand wasn't where it's at today. Anthony, over the last 2 years of working directly with me, has mentored me on content creation. In the process, I've mentored him and I've given him the access, typically, that mentors give you to opportunities, like coming to Ty's house, like going to events like South by Southwest, like traveling internationally all over the world. You guys get the value exchange there? It's a dual mentorship. So where and how do you find mentors? There's a couple different ways that you can do it. Conferences like this, networking. The speaker before me, I think his name is Mike, was talking about mentoring. Was talking about networking. Networking here, finding people that have like-minded interests as you, that know something that you don't know, that they can potentially help you. And what are you going to do for them in exchange? How can I help you? That's something that honestly gets left out of a lot of vocabulary of online networking today. It's always, hey, I reached out to you because you have all these followers and I want you to mentor me and you're successful. What can I learn from you? That's not how relationships work. Get to know people. Within your own companies where some of you might work, you have mentors there. You have access to people who are successful that can potentially mentor you. So you've got online, you have where you work, you have your community. They're out there, but keep in mind when you approach prospective mentors, come at them first with how can you help them? How can you learn from them, but in exchange offer something of value? As I look to wrap up, guys, your story is really going to be the key to your success. This is the secret ingredient to building a successful brand, whether it's a corporate brand or whether it's a personal brand. People are going to be compelled by your story at the end of the day. Your story is what makes you relatable. I had a gentleman walk up to me right before I came on stage out in the hall who was Hispanic and says, hey man, I enjoy following you and learning from you because I relate to you. Think about that. We each have a story to tell. I came on the stage and immediately I shared with you my story as a high school dropout, coming from immigrant parents, being able to, you know what, kick education in the rear and still be able to build a successful career for myself. That's my story. People don't want to be engaged by your products or services. They're engaged naturally by your story and what you share with them. Think about your favorite brand in the world. For me, it's Nike. I'm a big Nike fan. I don't go on social media to consume Nike's content about their sales or their sneakers. I go on social media to hear on a philanthropic level what Nike's doing in their community. I go on social media to hear about what they're doing from an employee advocacy standpoint. Some of my best friends, because I've worked in marketing as long as I have, are CMOs and CEOs that control multi-million-dollar ad budgets. I've gotten to know those folks through a variety of ways: networking, mentorship, value exchange. And I tell you, what's always been able to get me on someone's radar is a story. When someone asks you, what do you do and who are you? That's one of the most important questions you will ever be asked in your lifetime. Those two. What do you do and who are you? If you cannot answer those two questions, my first company was an online job board. It's a tech startup, like I said, during the recession. So I hosted job fairs all over the United States. You have 7 to 10 seconds to make a first impression. If you can't answer those two questions in 7 to 10 seconds, get out of line. Your story is what sells. I'm going to leave you guys with these 3 key areas of focus. Over the next 12 months, start off with your personal brand. Your personal brand is what people see, it's what they feel, and it's how they react when they see you, whether it's online or offline. And there's a lot of different varieties. I could do a talk here for the next hour about personal branding. But your personal brand, if you want to grow within your industry, if you want to get to meet people, if you want people to get to know you, because there's this saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. You've heard that, right? In today's day and age, it's who knows you. The second area of focus, besides your personal brand, should be relationships. Every single person that you connect with here today, ensure that you connect with these individuals on LinkedIn. If you want to grow your LinkedIn following, connect with people that you come across at in-person events like these. Connect with these folks on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, become friends. Build relationships. And it's not just about building relationships to see what you can get out of people, but it's how you can serve. Have a servant mindset. And then the third is results. In everything that you do, business today is results driven. I speak with a lot of content creators here in LA and through my agency, Gil Media. And these content creators tend to say that because they have X number of followers that they're successful. I always call bullshit on that. Your success is predicated on the results that you're able to drive to your clients. Followers on social media today are not clients. They're people that potentially are consuming your content. The folks that are at what they call in social selling at the bottom of the funnel, the folks at the bottom of the funnel and even the medium are the ones that are engaging with you in the direct messages. They're the ones that are presenting you with opportunities. They're the ones that are actually buying from you. If you're not driving results, so going back to the example of the young man that has the Bitcoin apparel business, if you're not driving results in your business, you're doing something wrong. And that's where you turn to your mentors. That's where you turn to the relationships that you build. Don't ever let fear, don't ever let a piece of paper hold you back from achieving your greatest potential. I'm going to leave you guys with this quote from the great Dale Carnegie, who said, "Develop success from failures. Discouragement and failure are 2 of the surest stepping stones to success." Thank you so much for your time.